It was 3:07 a.m. when Maya Khan's phone rang. The sound sliced through the silence of her tiny apartment like a blade. She rubbed her tired eyes, thinking it was another emergency call from the hospital. But when she glanced at the screen, the number didn't look familiar. She hesitated for a moment then answered. A man's panicked voice came through, trembling, desperate, almost broken. "Please see broken bar my daughter. She's burning with fever. I can't reach the hospital nurse. Can you come right now?" Before she could even respond, the call ended. Something inside Maya told her she couldn't ignore it, even though it wasn't her shift. Even though the call wasn't meant for her, she grabbed her stethoscope and stepped into the cold night. That one wrong call was about to change her life forever. Maya's old scooter coughed and sputtered down the empty streets as she followed the address the man had texted moments later. A massive villa in one of the richest parts of the city. Her heart raced. She was used to narrow alleys, overworked patients, and flickering hospital lights, and not marble driveways and iron gates taller than her apartment building. She hesitated at the door, shivering. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe he'd called the police thinking she was trespassing. But before she could turn away, the door opened and there he stood, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a wrinkled white shirt and worry in his eyes. Ayan Malik. The name was known all over Karachi. CEO of Malik Enterprises, one of the most powerful businessmen in the country. But that night, he didn't look like a billionaire. He looked like a father fighting to hold himself together. "You came," he whispered, almost in disbelief. "Please see she's inside." Maya followed him up the grand staircase, her footsteps echoing on polished floors. When she entered the little girl's room, she saw a tiny figure curled under the blanket, face red with fever, breathing shallow. Maya's instincts kicked in. She took charge without hesitation. Cooling compresses, fever medicine. Soft words whispered in the dark. The man stood behind her silently, as if afraid to breathe. For the next few hours, it was just the three of Emma, the nurse, the child, and the father who'd forgotten how to hope. By dawn, the girl's fever broke. Maya exhaled in relief. The little one stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Daddy?" she whispered weakly. Then she looked at Maya and smiled faintly. "Are you my new nurse?" Maya chuckled softly, brushing the girl's hair back. "Just someone who came by mistake," she said. But the truth was, nothing about that night felt like a mistake. When Ayan returned from dropping his daughter back to sleep, he found Maya in the kitchen making tea. She looked completely at home, and yet so out of place in her faded uniform and messy ponytail. "You could have ignored that call," he said quietly. "Why did you come?" She shrugged, staring into her cup. "Because someone needed me." For a man who lived in a world of power and profit, her simple words hit him harder than any business deal ever could. He'd built an empire but lost his wife 2 years ago, and with her, his peace. He'd buried himself in work, leaving his daughter to nannies on schedules. But that night, a stranger walked in and reminded him what compassion looked like. Over the next few days, Ayan insisted on paying her for her time, but Maya refused. "It was an accident," she smiled. "And your daughter is fine now." But little Sana wouldn't let her go. Every day she asked for Nurse Maya. So, reluctantly, Ayan offered her a temporary job to stay until Sana fully recovered. Maya needed the money, so she agreed. Neither of them realized that temporary would soon turn into something neither could imagine. Days turned into weeks. Maya's laughter began to fill the empty halls of the mansion. She cooked meals the maids had forgotten how to make, sang lullabies no one had sung since Ayan's wife passed, and somehow brought light back into rooms that had been cold for too long. Ayan found excuses to be home early, just to watch them. He told himself it was for his daughter, but deep down, he knew it wasn't only that. Yet, life has its way of testing what feels too good to be true. One evening, Maya was late. Her scooter had broken down, and she arrived drenched in rain. Ayan saw her trembling, exhaustion in her eyes, and something inside him snapped. He offered her a permanent position, and not just as a nurse, but as part of their family. Maya hesitated. "I don't belong in your world, sir," she whispered. "I'm just a poor nurse." He looked at her, eyes steady. "You showed up for a stranger at 3 a.m. That's the kind of person I want in my daughter's world." Still, she was afraid of gossip, afraid of falling for someone so far above her world. But love doesn't care for status. It grows quietly, in shared smiles and small kindnesses. One night, as she tucked Sana into bed, the little girl said, "Daddy smiles more when you're here. Mommy used to make him smile like that." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. Ayan stood at the door, hearing every word. Weeks later, during Sana's birthday party, Ayan walked up to Maya in front of everyone. "You came into our lives by mistake," he said softly, "but maybe some mistakes are meant to happen." Then he turned to his daughter. "Sana, what do you think? Should we keep her?" The little girl laughed and threw her arms around Maya. "Forever," she shouted. In that moment, under fairy lights and laughter, Maya realized that sometimes the wrong call can lead you exactly where you're meant to be. From that night on, she was no longer the poor nurse who answered a wrong call. She was Maya Malik, the woman who healed not just a sick child, but a broken family. And as Ayan held her hand, whispering, "You showed up when no one else did," she smiled, tears glimmering in her eyes. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness done in the darkest hour, a broken bar, becomes the beginning of a love story that never ends.